welcome back, Occhi Magazine people out there. I'm here with the great Antonio Hart. Welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Man, it's been too long. I think the last time I saw you must have been, geez, maybe when you were playing with Jimmy Heath's band at Blue Note, I think.
Wow, that was quite a while ago for sure.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man. Yeah, it's been. I feel like I had less gray hairs in my beard back then, so
I got him, man. It's a bad.
yeah, it just it comes with the territory, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think I've earned every strand, and so
Yeah.
have you.
Oh man. I guess I wanna maybe get the viewers who may not be familiar with your work a little bit hip to your story.
Sure.
So yeah, you were playing music and then the program got cut out of Baltimore and then that facilitated you getting this audition at Baltimore School of the Arts, is that correct?
That's totally correct. Yeah, that would have been my ninth grade year. They cut out the arts program, so I had like a pretty much a year without music, and that was the only thing I wanted to do in school at that time. So
Mhm.
Um, I was blessed, man, to get into the School for the Arts, where it just changed my whole life.
Oh, nice, nice. Oh man. And then I was reading a little bit on the website. So you had to learn this piece of music on the phone with your boy before the audition, or is that what it was?
Yeah, that's true. We spent a couple hours on the phone going over this piece called Hungarian Dance Number Five in the Universal Method book,
Oh yeah.
and I did to the best of my ability, and that's what I played, other than some scales. And I kept on making a mistake in one area, and then my teacher, Dr. Chris Ford, said, "Play that measure again," and I kept on messing up. He said, "Are you reading it?" I was like, "I think I am," and and he said, "Well, how did you learn?" I said, "I learned it over the phone, the other day." And
Oh.
I knew at that point I wasn't getting in, because the students that went to that school had, prep already. They had teachers, and they were on a certain level of accomplishment at young ages. So I came there very green.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, man. I mean, and I'm glad you did that because it kind of reminds me of what happened in Philadelphia. I think soon as I left Philly in 2009, I heard they had cut the arts program there. So it seems like it's a thing it's even more prevalent nowadays. I mean, but it happened to you back then. And this.
Yeah, yeah. That was a rough time. It was a scary time because, like I said, that was one of the main reasons for going to school, as far as I was concerned, being able to play music. Because
Mhm.
that particular school I was at was not such a great learning institution. It
Mhm.
was more like it felt like daycare for older kids, and it was like I had to be on survival mode all the time because you were a lot of fights, a
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
lot of fights, bro.
Uh huh. Oh man, well I'm glad you prevailed through it and got into the School of the Arts over there.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. I'm very, very thankful for that.
And then once you got to school, what was your what was the education like over there? Was it more classically trained, or were you doing jazz? Were you doing both then, or like how did that go then?
It was all European classical based. My teacher, Dr. Chris Ford, has studied with John Dex, who was the the protege of Marcel Mule.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so that was our training: the Furlings, the Creston, the Glazunov, the Ebert, the Boza, and all kinds of saxophone quartet stuff. So that's what we were playing. But there was a little bit of jazz, but not really, because it was pretty much a European classical approach to the school at that time.
Hmm.
And I realized earlier on that I wasn't going to have a career as a soloist playing European classical music. It didn't even inspire me in that way, even though it was challenging. And I
Hmm.
learned a great deal about music through playing that or attempting to play it. And, I started listening to the jazz station in Baltimore, WEA, that's part of Morgan State University.
Hmm.
And called jazz. I saw black people playing it, and this whole idea of improvisation
Hmm.
really, really intrigued me. So I I said, this is what I want to do. I want to play this music with people that look like me, and I want to try to do this improvisation thing. So
Hmm.
that's what led me to the School for the Arts. I mean, it led me to going to Berkeley. Excuse me.
Oh, okay. Oh man, that's I wish I would have had that realization. I got out of grad school and I was like, oh, ain't no money in classical saxophone.
I mean, everything that we've picked, man. It's we picked the music that's not a popular music, and if I always tell my students and friends, even if you have one gig, you succeeded. If you're playing
Yeah.
music and you won.
Hmm.
You the vanguard. You might not get whatever the big thing is, but if somebody's paying you, you're a success story.
Exactly, exactly. And I'll never take for granted what I learned in that classical stuff. But I mean, it's funny. I mean, I remember even for me in college, I always did want to do the jazz thing. Once I got out of school, it's just like I just hit it as hard as I could. Now that I finally had that time to dedicate to it. So, yeah. But that's interesting. Yeah, I remember I think I was speaking with you at the jazz center one time. You had told me you spent some time on the Ibero. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Oh man, I practiced that for several years, man, to be able to play it not at a high level.
uh,
I could play it. I could definitely play it. That's what I auditioned with Berkeley with. I played the Bear, and
oh
they were
yeah.
looking. Why are you coming here? I was like, I want to learn how to play jazz. And I mean, literally, when I got there, I was in the lowest ensembles, just everything. I was at ground level. I knew species counterpoint, 4-part writing, and I could read. I could read fairly well, but in terms of jazz idiom, I had to learn from the beginning.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, I had to totally learn from the beginning.
And you studied with Bill Pierce there primarily. Is that true? Is that correct?
He was the reason I went. Branford Marcellus had gone there, and that time went, and Branford were like huge. So
Right,
I just followed those footsteps, and then I learned Bill Pierce was there, who was a jazz messenger. I was like, well, that's a no brainer. But
right.
well, took a year with Joe Viola, who was like one of the saxophone gods at Berkeley.
Hmm.
Got your foundation together. I
Hmm.
don't think I was quite ready for him when I did it, but I did have some time with him, and then I had a wonderful teacher named Andy McGee, who played with Lionel Hampton and a lot of different people. And I have to say, all three of them were great for different things, but Andy McGee was real important because he made me like curious, and he made me think, because he was doing these techniques on the tenor, and I was like, man, show it to me. He was like, no. I was like, what you mean, no? I'm paying it out for yourself. And I was upset. Then, but my ego, I put it aside. I said, "Well, tell me what I need to do." He said, "Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy." And that's what I did. I went to used record stores. There was one called Looney Tunes around the corner from Berkeley. This guy named Lewis owned it, and I said, "Man, whenever you got any Johnny Hodges, any Earl Bostic, Benny Carter, Marshall Royal, Tab Smith, any of these guys, let me know, and I'll come get them." And I still have those records in the living room right now. And I
Yeah.
just spent like months and months and months just listening to Johnny Hodges, because I wanted to get that thing that my teacher Andy McGee had. It was something that was beautiful in that technique, in that style, and it felt like some of the foundation that I wanted, and that was something that separated me from a lot of my peers when I came on the scene, because I had done a lot of that homework, that early homework, listening to those guys, primarily to Johnny Hodges.
I hear you. I mean, it's funny. I mean, even just recently, I went back and started transcribing stuff. That stuff not easy to transcribe. To get the nuance and everything in there. So
Yeah, yeah. It's as Master Heath would say, music is life and life is music. And when you hear those guys play, you hear the intellect, you see the facility, but then the things that they do inside of it that makes it brilliant. How they can take a note and shape it, or take a phrase and shape it.
mhm.
Color, dynamics, articulation, phrasing that makes it human, makes it alive. Instead of the note black and white on a piece of paper, it could be blue. Could be yellow, it could be red, it could be pizza, it could be a hot dog. You know what I mean? It could be a beautiful woman. It could be me, a sunny day or a rainy day. And that's what art is. a lot of the young players now, man, they have so much facility and they know so much harmony, and it's amazing to hear it. And I'm always smiling when I see how how far they come along. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm listening for other things, and some of it is maturity, some of
Mm-hmm.
it time to get to it, and you have to want to get to it, and some of it comes by being mentored by the masters. Like I had a chance to sit next to Frank West for 13 years, but I
Right.
also sat with Ron Richardson and Jerry Dodgen a couple times. You know, these great players, James Moody and Mr. Heath,
Mm-hmm.
um, Gary Smoling and people like that, and then sit next to Chris Potter and Mark Turner and the Stricklands. You know, so I've sat next to each generation, but the older guys I learned so much from.
Mm. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, yeah. I mean, and yeah. So I think it's hopefully continuing, and I think you're probably doing a great job in doing that as well. Because I mean, doing the Duke Ellington band, the Mingus band, and all these bands you played with. I'm sure you've mentored many.
Ah man, I only did the Ellington band one time. I did the Mingus band for a little while. There was a time where I was in that band a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and, of course the Dizzy band for many years.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, man, I've had some great experiences, and a lot of it is off the bandstand. Just talking to the masters and getting that knowledge. Master
Hmm.
Heath dropped so much wisdom on me. Master Heath and James Moody, primarily, those two guys really dropped a lot of knowledge on me. I'm so thankful to both of them. And then I'm trying to think. I mean, so many guys have poured into me, man. This is that's important. That's an important part of it. The practice room is important. The jam sessions are important, but
Hmm.
and like I said, my point was like sometime I would be at Master Heath's house, and I told him this last week. Sonny Rollins, I told Sonny Rollins, I said I would hear you guys talk, and I would just be like a fly on the wall, and they would talk. Well, have you heard this, Mr. Heath? Have you heard Take Six? Have you heard this? Oh yeah, I heard it. You hear Sonny Rollins talking, and then they would talk about Sugar Hill. They would talk about Sugar Ray Robinson or Joe Lewis and Max Schmeling. They would talk about all this history stuff that I could read about it, but hearing it from people that lived it, that were there,
Hmm.
you know, it was incredible, man. Incredible experience for me.
Man,
Uh, I'll always cherish those moments.
and actually, that kind of brings me maybe to my next I guess question or kind of topic of discussion. Because after Berkeley, did you go straight to New York? Was it like out of Berkeley you went straight to the city?
3 days later, I graduated. 3 days later, I was in a car
Hmm.
and to East 80th and First. I was probably in that apartment for a week before I was in Europe with Roy Hargrove, and we spent most of the summer in Europe. And I came back, and then I moved to Brooklyn. Then
Gotcha,
I in that September, I started graduate school.
man. Yeah, so it was that quick. Okay, it's just like I'll see you, Boston. I'm now moving to the Big Apple.
I mean, that was for me. I didn't know that I was going to have a career as a professional musician because, like I said, when I got to Berkeley, I was the low guy on the totem pole. So
Hmm.
my objective was to be in music. So I put myself on a track to get my bachelor's, master's, and PhD, primarily in education. And I was going to go back to Baltimore and be a teacher, have family. And
Hmm.
I said, if I'm lucky one day, somebody might allow me to, play on one of their records. And
Wow.
if that had happened, I would have been happy because
Hmm.
that's the way I saw it. But
Hmm.
God had other plans for me because before I even graduated, I was recording with Roy.
Hmm.
And by the time I graduated, I had my own record deal. And
Nice.
I didn't know if I deserved it, but it was an opportunity, and I tried to do the things to be worthy of it. But it was definitely a rough time when RCA offered me that contract because I was thinking about all of these musicians that had been out there longer than me that didn't have that opportunity. And I was like, some young 21-year-old kid from college getting this opportunity. Do I deserve it? And I was going to turn it down. And
Hmm.
somebody said to me, they said, man, this is an opportunity that might not come again. You should take advantage of it. And I'm glad I did.
Mm. And I'm glad you did too, because you put out some amazing records.
Um, and I tried to be honest, some of it was quite eclectic, but my listening palette, my music palette is eclectic. As much as I love Johnny Hodges, I love Bob Marley. I love, I love Earth, Wind and Fire. I love all the rap stuff. How could I deny it? I grew up in that generation, listening to Curtis Blow and Run DMC and LL and people like that. So that's so much a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always like to listen to musicians and artists that move people. I want to know why. That's how I discovered like Bob Marley, or like I would see people with this guy on his shirt and it was Jimi Hendrix, so I had to listen to Jimi Hendrix. Or I kept on hearing about these guys, the Beatles, so I had to buy the White Album and just find out why Paul McCartney and John Lennon are so important in terms of their writing. And Queen, Van Halen, AC/DC, Jeff Beck. I like Lady Gaga. What's her name? Amy Winehouse. I try to check out a lot of different music, man, as well as the Euro classical tradition, Bartok, and the names that we know already. I probably should listen to more jazz. maybe that's my problem. I'll listen to it enough, but I spent so many years, man, listening to so much of the tradition. It's just I'm of this time. So how could I deny Marvin Gaye or the Supremes or Smokey Robinson? How could I deny that stuff? Because that's the stuff I grew up listening to. I didn't grow up listening to Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt, Ellington. So that's what when I record, I try to just be honest with the things that I like and where I am, because it's all it is just documentation of where you are at that particular time, and hopefully somebody gravitates towards it. And I've been very fortunate to have some people like my stuff. So I can't ask for anything more.
No, I mean they're great albums, man. You're burning that. I remember the first one for the first time, and came out the gate for the first time swinging. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, man. I was just thinking about that, man, because I had Mo Guru, Master Miller on that record. I had my teacher Bill Pierce on that. Roy actually played on a composition that I wrote for Harold Mayburn and Lewis Nash and McBride, young McBride. And a great trumpet player from Baltimore, Tommy Williams. Like, man, couldn't ask for a better premiere recording.
Yeah, man, and I like the cover too. It like kind of transports me back to like I guess the '90s. I was like, oh, okay.
We were trying to look like Fast Navarro and Bird and all those cats. I mean, I don't know if we were trying, but the pork pie hats and the long ties and everything, which I still love. So yeah, it was a magical time, bro, because like I said, that wasn't part of my dream. So all of that was icing to putting records out and hearing your records on the radio, or getting on a plane and you're flying to Europe or you're flying to Japan constantly, a lot. And that was one of the greatest gifts that music has given me, is to travel the world and to meet people with different cultures and then realize that we're all the same. Maybe different ceremony, different religious beliefs, but the basic things are the same. You want to be happy, you want to experience love, you want to have shelter, you want to eat food, Everything else is just, like I said, it's really just ceremony. So I've made wonderful friends around the world. I've gotten to see places that I didn't know what they were real, even though they were in books. I didn't know they were real, but I'm standing at the top of the Eiffel Tower, or I'm in Greece. I'm in I'm in all these places that I've read about. I'm in Nagasaki. I'm in Tokyo. I'm on the Great Wall of China. I'm in the Forbidden City, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm a martial artist too, man. So like, I went to Shaolin Temple. Every kung fu guy knows, or woman knows about Shaolin Temple. I actually went to Shaolin Temple and ate in the private dining room with the monks. I'm the first person in history to play jazz at Shaolin Temple in its 1500-year history.
Wow, yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm the first person to play up on the top of that mountain, play some jazz,
Hmm.
and man, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
proud of that, man. And to see teaching a camp,
Hmm.
I taught a camp in Shanghai, like about 400, 450 kids, man. And they were
Hmm.
these little kids, couldn't have been more than like 8 or 9 years old, and they were playing work song.
Oh, nice.
And I remember looking up in the sky, and I could see like Sarah Vaughan and Duke Ellington and Nat. I could see all these people looking down, and I was like, "Did you guys know that your music would affect people on the other side of the world?" You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
Contribution of these masters, man. They created an art that people love. They can't speak to them. Kids couldn't speak to me. I couldn't speak Mandarin and mainly Mandarin, but
Hmm.
communicate musically, and we both experienced that. You know, with different cultures. You know, we can do that. And that's why it's the universal language, music. And
Hmm.
if our intention is right, it's the universal language of love.
Yes, most definitely. No, man. I mean, that's quite extraordinary. I mean, and yeah, that's just baffling to be in the Shaolin Temple because I watched the documentaries where they practiced so much where the stones got flattened from them, hitting it. And I
Yeah,
was like, wow.
yeah, I saw that. I saw, and then I went to Wudang Mountain. So if you the Wu Tang and Wudang, you know, all the stuff there too, and had a like the number one Tai Chi teacher in China take me around and take me into these areas that the normal people don't get to go,
Hmm.
and that's because I was a musician, a jazz musician. I went over there to teach, but also to explore that part of the culture, man. So I have some wonderful experiences.
Oh, wonderful, man. Actually, it's funny. I did an interview with Ralph Peterson. God rest his soul. I did an interview with him last year, and we were supposed to do a follow up interview, and he fell ill, unfortunately. But I had a question for him that maybe I can pose to you, being a martial artist. What do you feel are some of the similarities between the two art forms, and like how has maybe becoming a martial artist influenced your outlook on music, and maybe vice versa?
You know, that's a great question because it's an art. That's why we have it. Like music is an art and a science as well as martial arts. And you,
Hmm.
I had to learn to approach it not as Antonio Hart, the accomplished musician. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Of having 30 plus professional years, I had to like, as they say in the Eastern philosophy, empty your cup.
Mm.
So emptying my cup and becoming humble, you know, because I'm like, well, in music, I get this pretty fast. This comes pretty fast. I've been doing it. It didn't come that fast with Kung Fu. So what Kung Fu has taught me in a lot of ways is to be humble, to be patient, and all those lessons that I tell my students, I had to live it through the martial arts. Like, don't be so concerned about the destination, enjoy the journey. You know, because I had been to many schools before I got to my school,
Hmm.
and I felt like, you know, I should be at a certain level by now. I
Gotcha.
didn't come obvious, I didn't come as a beginner, but I had to go through the ranks in this particular school in their particular philosophy. And I was like trying to rush through it so I can get to the level I wanted to get to. So I got to the level that I want to get to, which is we call them technicians, which is like a black belt, right? So
Hmm.
I have second level technician, so it's second degree black belt, and I wanted it. I got it, and I said I want to do it because my objective is to become a C4, a teacher. So you had to get that and get certified with an amount of things you're ready. So
Hmm.
I got there, but what I realized was in rushing to get the icing,
Hmm.
there were some ingredients that I didn't really know in making the cake. So my cake wasn't as good as it should be. So I said,
Hmm.
you know what? I'm gonna forget about the icing and I'm gonna concentrate on putting the flour, the sugar, the salt, the yeast, and making sure that I know the right amounts to make the cake good. It doesn't take away from the icing that I have there, but I want the cake to be good, you know, first. So it's definitely parallel. I mean, it's the same. It's an art, that has a history. So you have to do a lot of studying. You know, you have to read about the masters. What did they do? You have to have muscle memory. So you have to practice. You have to think about it. You go to class, but you have to do outside work on your own. You know, especially in martial arts, the teacher would show you a technique and then they would disappear for about 3 months. And then they come back and they show me what I showed you. So you can't just show them what they showed you. You have to show with a level of understanding and some level of development with it. And then they say, okay, now I'm going to take you to the next level. But if they come back and you didn't get much out of it, they say, okay, see you later. And then you never see them again.
Right.
You know? And it's the same, man. You know, I spend a lot of hours here practicing my horns that are sitting right here, but then practicing forms, getting up in the morning. I haven't done it lately, but practicing my forms or going to the park and doing all the calisthenics and things that I knew because I'm older. You know, a lot of the guys in the school are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And then, you know, learning, which is parallel to music for me, how to play smart, how to be able to play energetically, have emotion, have that fire, but then be as relaxed as possible. You know, because I still had that drive, but it's not like when I was 22, 23 years old. As a martial artist, I got to learn how to do that because I'm not going to be faster than these young kids. But I can be more mature, and I won't say smarter, but I have experience where I can use my time on Earth to, you know, to counter what they're doing. Gotcha. And we do that on the bandstand, you know. And I remember talking to Gary Bartz, who's one of my mentors from Baltimore, and I was like, Master Bartz, it seems like you always play the perfect solo. You never play too many notes. You don't play too little notes. It's just developed perfectly. How do you do it? I said, I'm working on all this harmony. You know, I'm working on all this stuff, listening to Kenny Garrett at the time and all these people. And he said, you know, you have to do that. You have to go through that process, and then you start to learn how to pick and choose. You start to take things. And I'm just at 52 years old, I'm just getting that, understanding what he's talking about. Yes, I know a lot of stuff. I know a lot of harmony. I know a lot of techniques, but it's not called for all the time. Yeah. And if you all that stuff in that knowledge, that wisdom, that spirit and emotion into one note, that's all you need. I'm looking for the one note that tells you the whole story.
Gotcha. So like less is more, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people express themselves with a lot of notes. Some people, they just have gorgeous sound. Some people have amazing rhythm. You know, some people great communication, like a Johnny Hodges or all the people that we love, bro. You know, because that was part of it. It wasn't like going to an institution and learning how to play this music. The institution was like going out and being on the road and living that life, because you have to live life to play something. If you haven't lived, if all you lived is the practice room, that's what you're going to sound like. You're going to sound pretty amazing, but there's a life force, that something that's missing. It's all up here. It's between Master Heath, the soul, and the science. Yeah, that's what we want, a balance between the soul and the science.
Gotcha. Oh man, sorry. Sometimes I get inspired and I bounce around, so maybe these questions won't be in chronological order necessarily. But I wanted to ask you, like, what was this? The reason I ask is because I'm always kind of jealous of these stories from the older generation of New Yorkers. But like, what was the scene like for you coming into New York from Berkeley? I know there was Bradley's that I missed out on, and then I think it used to be Sweet Basil. I think I came when it was Sweet Rhythm, and then they closed.
Yeah. Man, when the first time I came to New York was to visit in 1987. I was going to leave Berkeley and go to the new school, and at that time, that's when Jesse Davis was there, Antoine Roney, Peter Breen. You know, I think, and there were some other guys. This guy Greg Lewis was there. And I just looked at the facilities. It was on a campus of, I think, Parsons School of Design. They just had one floor, and I was like, no way I'm gonna leave Berkeley to come here. But it was interesting. You know, I went to the jam session at the Blue Note, and it was run by Rodney Kendrick, and that's the first time I met Justin Robinson and Winard Harper. And they vibed the hell out of me, bro. Right. Because when I and Philip were from Baltimore, I said, "Hey, man, I'm from Baltimore." They were like, "Okay." And then I played, and Jesse was like, "Hey, man, how old are you?" you know, and then I went back to college. But then when I actually moved down, like I said, when I moved down for graduate school, and I was with Hargrove, we were going out all the time. Yeah, Bradley's. We played Bradley's all the time, and that was just, man. If you could imagine, like, the creme of la creme for what we do would end up in Bradley. So you had 3 sets, and the third set started at 1 a.m. So by the third set, people were coming off their gigs, and they would go to Bradley's. And then if you were in the inside crowd, you stayed there till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning doing whatever cats did. I was out of there by then. But just to give you an example, one night I was doing the gig and I had my eyes closed. And when I opened my eyes, I'll never forget, like, the piano's against the wall and I'm standing here and the bar is over there and the chairs. I open my eyes and Ray Bryant is sitting right there on the corner. He always sat at the corner of the bar. Back there was George Coleman, Bill Saxton. And then at the table was Betty Carter and Elvin Jones. And then it was a table back by the telephone and it was Cecil Taylor. And this is normal. This no. And Betty Carter and Elvin Jones sat in with us.
Oh, wow.
And Betty Carter was really nice to me. Like, I was even playing in Paris, and she came to my gig with Jackie Terrison and sat in on my gig in Paris. I mean, she was a really nice lady, really nice. But, bro, you would go down the street. I remember being on the train, and this old man was sitting there, and we're looking at him, and the people thought we were going to rob him. They were like, "Don't mess with that old man." And we were like, "Aren't you Buck Clayton?" And, he was kind of scared, And he was like, "We know who you are. Can we have your autograph?" And people were like, "Who's that old man?" Buck Clayton, one of the greatest trumpet players in history. And you walk down the street, you would see, you could see Art Blakey. You would just see everybody. I see James Moody walking down the street. One time I had a gig bag. He said, "Antonio, don't wear that because you'll get a pinched nerve, and it's not good for you." And I sure did catch a pinched nerve. And one day, Rob Baltimore called me and said, "James Moody has a gift for you." And I went down to Rob Baltimore. He bought me a case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. It was incredible, man. Because like I said, you had Jesse Davis. Oh my God. I mean, just monster. You had Antoine Roney. You had Peter Bernstein. You had all these cats that have been, Vince Herron and those guys that have been in there. And of course, the generation before us, you had Mulgrew, Kenny Garrett, Steve Nelson, all those guys. You would see. You had Bradley's. You had Sweet Basil. You had the Zinc Bar. You had Condon's. You had Fat Tuesdays. And you had the Knickerbocker. I guess Smalls was there, but I didn't go there. And you had McHale's that was uptown, but that closed down. They started to close down, but Bradley's was the place. When Bradley's closed, man, New York kind of changed up. I mean, because that was everybody went to Bradley's.
Gotcha.
Everybody went to Bradley's, man, and you could hear John Hicks, Kenny Barron, Ray Drummond. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. Everybody that played there, man. And one time I was playing, I saw Sonny Rollins, like in the back. When people saw him, he left. I mean, you just never knew who you were going to see in Bradley's, and it was an honor to play there, man, and just to be a part of that history and know that, because that was New York, man. Sweet Basil's another one. That's where I sat in with Art Blakey.
Mm-hmm.
That's sweet. It was funny because I was just telling it because we just did a record date a couple days ago, and with Jeff Keezer, and it was Jeff Keezer, Steve Gadd. I mean, couldn't imagine, bro. I hadn't played with. Jeff just posted something just now. Imagine, like, I hadn't played with anybody, and I'm on my first gig in a year, and I go into the studio and I see John Patitucci, Steve Gadd, Jeff Keezer, Jimmy Green, and Steve Davis. I'm like, I'm definitely in heaven.
Yeah.
But so Jeff was my roommate at Berkeley, and he was playing with Art Blakey, and he told Art Blakey about me. So I came down to New York to audition, and it was at Basil. And that time, I think Donald Harrison had come back to the band, and I guess Brian Lynch was there, and Frank Lacey, and Essie It. and Keyser. So along the bathroom, where it was the bathroom, and then they had tables, and the stage was right here, and they had a line of saxophone players, man. I remember Victor Goins and all these people were in line, right? So we get out our horns, and they're playing Hammerhead. So everybody would get up and play, people would clap. So every time it was my turn to get ready to get on stage, somebody would run in front of me and jump. It was like that New York haze. You know, I don't know nothing about that. I'm this kid from Boston. And man, then Art Blakey was playing. He looked at me, he went, "You go next." Right? I was like, okay. And I get up there and play, man, and the whole place just erupts, right? I was like, I was just happy to feel Art Blakey behind you, man. You know, I'm like, it was like, I can't describe it, right? So we go back into the kitchen, and Roy comes in, and he goes, "Roy Hargrove, you're going to be a messenger, and he's going to be a messenger too." And I was like, I'm going to be a messenger.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man, but Roy got signed, and we did that. So, I mean, because I was definitely considering it, but my mom was like, "You got one more semester of school. You're not doing anything till you graduate." And then Art Blakey passed, so it was actually, I would have loved to play with him, but it was better that I finished school.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
New York was on fire, man. It wasn't as many players as you see now. Like, there's a plethora of young players. It was a small pocket. You had, you know, besides the names I told you, you had Mark Whitfield, you had Troy Davis, you had Tim Warfield, you had Marlon Jordan at the time, you had Nicholas Payton was coming on the scene, James Carter was coming on the scene, and you know, besides some of the old cats that was still around, C Sharp and some of those, you know, New York fixtures were still there, man. But it was powerful, man. You know, Jackie McLean and Renee McLean and the Fort Apache Band, Jerry and Andy Gonzalez, Larry Willis. I mean, you saw these cats all the time, and it was so, you got to hear like music on its highest level as a 20-year-old, and you wanted to be a part of that. And the thing was, cats weren't so willing to let you in until you deserved to be there. So that was the other part. Cats were pretty cruel. Cats were, when I came to the city, bro, I had to develop a tough skin, man, because I wasn't ready for it. And that's why they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, because there's a certain kind of price you have to pay to be strong. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have a strong character, because a lot of people don't stay. It's not that they're great artists. It's just mentally and spiritually they can't handle the pressure that comes to them, and they have to get out. New York is not for everybody.
No, it's not, for sure. You know, it's a rough one, you know. But it's kind of funny hearing the stories that you're telling me. It kind of reminds me of like maybe the 80s and 90s NBA versus 2000 and going forward in the NBA, where you can't touch anybody.
Oh yeah, funny, because I've been watching a lot of the Hall of Fame speeches. I saw Jordan, I saw Iverson, I saw Barkley, and I saw Dennis Rodman, and then I saw Magic and Larry Bird from the Dream Team, the '90 Dream Team. You know, listening to how they thought about the game, you know, and all the great ones, man, they had this competitive nature, and for them it was like win by any means necessary. Yeah. Now, people didn't like you, but your objective was to win. And then when I think about John Coltrane being a force for good, but getting to the highest level musically and spiritually by every means possible. Same thing with Parker. We know he practiced for years, primarily say 3 or 4 years, 14 hours a day, 13, 14 hours a day, you know, and kids wonder, they think they can get it out of the air. And if the master, the guy that codified what we played, it took him 3 years of practicing that much, we might have to practice longer.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know? And I mean, just all the guys, man, and Master Heath told me, he said that's all John Coltrane did. I mean, one time he was saying, man, Jackie Robinson hit a home run, and he said, John Coltrane said, he said, Jimmy, who's Jackie Robinson? You know what I mean? Yeah. say integration of baseball, but John Coltrane was like music. You know,
Right.
he was driven. Master Heath, 93 years old, we did 2 recordings right before he died. He was still writing music till the end. Sonny Rollins was practicing until he couldn't play anymore. You know, still his mind is still sharp and brilliant. It's like a certain drive, man, a certain hunger, and it's a love that is not about gigs. It's not about making records. It's not about being famous. It's about this inner thing that's inside of you that you have to get out. And our medium is doing it musically with a saxophone or whatever, you know, right? And that's what I would like to see more of, is just the people that love it. The guys that I was around, they loved it. Master Heath, Master Moody was going to have an operation going to the hospital at 6:30 in the morning. So he got up at 4 o'clock so he could practice piano.
Wow, man.
You know, so it's like, those are my lessons. I mean, I can't say that COVID that I really followed it, because Gary Bartz, we talked about that. He said, this is your time to practice. But sometimes I was just freaking depressed, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And teaching online, which is not the way to teach music, in my opinion, but it's a vehicle. Thank God we had that vehicle.
Right.
And, you know, trying to uplift my students at times where I wasn't uplifted.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a heck of a year, but, you know, back to what you saying, asking me about New York, man, it was just so incredible. And when you went to the jam sessions, you had to have your knife sharp, because cats would like blow you off the stage.
Yeah.
And they were nice about it. It wasn't, but it's a little different than what I've seen today. It was young and cats had their chest in the air, but it was like, if you're going to play this music, you have to respect it on the highest level. And you have to be playing on the highest level. You know, and everybody was doing that. But, you know, just as much as cats were mean to me, there were so many cats that were so nice, like Jesse Davis and Bill Saxton. And, you know, a lot of cats were very encouraging. You know, Kenny Garrett was a mentor for a long time. He was very encouraging in the beginning of my career. Mo Gramilla, very, very encouraging. You know, Dave Holland and one of my best friends in life, my big brother Robin Eubanks. You know, I've had some guys that were really, really cool. You know, Phil Woods was encouraging. Lou Donaldson, who I was afraid of, because Lou Donaldson doesn't like nobody. You know, I don't mean that literally, but he'll tell you if you're not mean. He doesn't have a problem telling you you're not playing nothing. And he was always cool to me, man. You know, like the guys some of the guys were just really, really cool, man. It just gave me the confidence to keep on doing it. So, and I'm thankful that I had time around them and just had little conversations with them. You know, it's a lot of my experiences aren't from books, not from jazz history books. Right. I was on the bus with Nat Adderley telling me about Cannonball, not reading about, even though I read the books, but he's telling me stories because he was there. You know, or sitting in with Jimmy Cobb and he's telling me the stories about Miles Davis or Dinah Washington or Sarah Vaughan. You know, just, bro, it's priceless. Frank West, I'll tell you a story. This is the most incredible story in life, man. He was in the hospital and I would go visit him. You know, he didn't want to be in the hospital. He was irritable. And his girlfriend at the time, Sarah, is a Japanese lady. She's blind, man, but she's incredible. She can get around New York better than anybody I know. I don't know how she does it, but she's an intuitive. She's a therapist, but she's brilliant, like just off the chain brilliant. So she was like, I'm feeling too well today. And he was sitting in a chair slumped down like this. And I was like, I just came all the way up here. What can I do to get him, you know, to talk? So I said, Mr. West, you know, you're from DC and I'm from Baltimore. Can you tell me about, you know, a little bit about the history of that area? He said, yeah, I played in Baltimore and I played this. And he was telling me about guys. He told me about some guy that got a saxophone on Friday and was gigging on a Monday. I mean, like stuff like that. But
wow.
So he started talking and he came alive and he said, yeah, you know, we had this band of young guys and this one guy came up to us. He was older than us to coach us or something. And he's like, you know, this guy was talking about he invented jazz. And we were like, whatever. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, invented jazz. I said, Mr. West, are you talking about Jelly Roll Morton? He's like, yeah, that's the guy.
Oh, wow.
Bruh.
Wow.
Like, yeah, that's the guy. I mean, that's how far back he goes, man. And you
Woo.
know, that's that history, man. And, it's yeah, I watched him. He had Johnny Hodges' saxophone, and just
Uh-huh.
he would tell me about stuff with Count Basie band. Their travel conditions were horrendous, man. Some of the stuff they had to deal with, and they created all this music, man. That was, you know, past the test of time, man. So yeah, New York, man. New York is a very special place. I hope it gets back. It's changed, and primarily because a lot of those venues have closed down. A lot of those masters aren't around. I saw Freddie Hubbard. I saw J.J. Johnson. I saw Tony Williams. I saw all these people live. Nancy Wilson. The creme of la creme. A lot of the young guys don't see that anymore. I mean, and I love Glasper. I love Casey Benjamin. I love Kamasi Washington, Terrence Martin. I love those guys. I love Jaleel Shaw. I love Miguel Zenon. I love Godwin. I don't know what Godwin's last name is. He's really bad. And so many cats. I love the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
But and the young guys are learning from us because I guess we're moving into that place. But if they could really hear and listen with open hearts and ears to Barry Harris, and Slide Hampton, and those guys of that caliber that are of that age and have that connection to the tradition, they'll get something else out of the music. But and as Dizzy Gillespie said it, 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the present. So you can continue to listen to Potter and Brad Maldau, and they're not even the young guys anymore. Talk about James Francis or people like that, and Nate Smith, and Eric Harlan. It's not new names, but you can listen to that too. But also go back and listen to Fats Navarro. Go back and listen to Fats Waller. Go back and listen to Willie Lyons Smith, especially if you're a piano player.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to Blake and Scott Joplin, and you damn sure better be listening to Louis Armstrong.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, if you want to play this music and you don't listen to Louis Armstrong, you're really like cutting out a very, very important part of your musical development, because that's the father.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's one of our great grandfathers, for that matter. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Oh man, no, this is very informative, man. There's a lot of history you just dropped right there.
I would love to play more with guys my age and some of my guys, and I hope that happens in the future. But I just felt like it was important for me to be around the masters, man. Mm-hmm. I remember I did something for the Jazz Foundation, and I played with Kenny Barron. It was Kenny Barron, Billy Hart, and Kiyoshi. I keep on forgetting Kiyoshi's last name, so I hope he forgives me. But we played, everybody was playing something for Charlie Parker, and Billy Hart said, "Yeah, you like to hang out with them old guys, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, but I would love to play with you too." You know what I mean? It so happened I put myself in a situation where I got a chance to hang out with Milt Jackson and learn from those guys, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I should be a better player, and I'm gonna try my best to make them proud and be better. But it's life, and you have to grow. But they planted the seed in me.
Mm. Oh man. So yeah, I could spend all day, but unfortunately, I'm gonna maybe close with asking you what are your plans now that the stuff is starting to open up a little bit? Do you have any like projects coming up or any stuff, anything happening that you want to share?
Yeah, working on music for another project. I don't know when that's going to happen, but of course that. I took a couple lessons with Gary Thomas, man, who is one of my heroes from Baltimore, and he dropped some science on me that I need some time to work out that will enhance some of the things that I've been working out. I mean, he really blessed me with some wonderful information. So in the practice thing, working on I'm trying to work on a book, which I've been trying to work on for years. I just haven't sat down and done it. Trying to be a better teacher, trying to be a better human being, taking care of my health, trying to grow martial arts. And just my teacher says, stop trying, just do it. So, yeah. But I just want to enjoy it, man. You know, I've had an amazing career, and it's not over yet. As I told you, I have wonderful memories of being around the greats, and I'm just hoping that since I'm standing on their shoulders, that I'm able to do something that makes them proud and feel like their time and effort that they poured into me wasn't in vain. And also doing my job to pass that on to the next generation, to guys or ladies or whoever that wants that information from me, because I'm a combination of both. I know what it's like to be in school, to go through the institutions, but also been on the road and talk to these guys. I'm probably one of the last of that generation that can say that.
Right, exactly.
To be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, and you know, just the fellowship with brothers like you know, we're talking in this context, and maybe the next time it'd be playing music or you know, hanging out, man. Because I see the pictures of you and your beautiful family, bro. I haven't told you your family's gorgeous, man. You're so.
Thank you.
And you know, that's one of my dreams. That's something that I want, man. But you know, I had to mature, and hopefully now God will bring my queen to me, and you know, if it's meant for me to have children, but at least have a partner in life. So when I see brothers like you that not only have that, but that honor that family, and then that responsibility, that gift from God, that's like the most incredible gift that you can have of having a child. And I see they do it right. I just have to acknowledge that and tell you that because I see it. I've never told you, but you know, I'm always smiling when you put up something, man. It makes me very, very happy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you again for doing this. And man, it's so great that to hear you say you're still studying. I was watching a seminar by Tim Adams, percussionist, former principal timpanist of the Pittsburgh Symphony, and he brought up an interesting point that I think people don't really talk about. Is that I think once we get to this professional level, we're scared to take lessons like we should know it all, and you know. And it's like, you know, even professional golfers, they have a coach their whole careers, you know. So to hear you say that, I think hopefully any students watching this will pay attention to that. You know, I think it's really important.
Man, when you become a black belt in martial arts, you're just a white belt. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
It's an art, so there's never. I mean, we could take the C major scale, and we know the C major scale intimately. We can talk about the modes. We can play the thirds, fifths, sevenths, and every six, sevens, everything that's possible. But there's still something under the hood from just playing a C major scale, you know. And that's for me. That's the exciting part because you know it gets frustrating because you want to be better. You want to play on the higher levels, but you know there's always something to learn. And I don't care how old the kid is. It could be somebody 5 years old. If they're doing something I'm like, show it to me. You know? So yeah, I'm of that school of always being curious and wanting to learn. So, and we should, like I said, we need to empty our cup. Then we'll be able to fill it up with something else.
Man, I think I'll leave it at that. That's such a great way to end this interview. You know, for myself and for everyone watching. Man, thank you again. Again, I'm with the great and knowledgeable and you know one of the greatest human beings, Mr. Antonio Hart. Thank you again for being with us.
Wow, that's heavy, man. I'm such a work in progress, brother. Made so many mistakes, but I thank God that I have another day to try to be better. And I thank you for this opportunity and much respect.
Yes, let's do it again soon. Thank you again.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.